Hi guys, I'm Kevin Secours, Director of the International Combat Systema Association. One of the questions that I get the most is, what exactly is Combat Systema? And the confusion is forgivable because the Russian martial arts are far less known compared to the Asian variations, and moreover, Systema has a wide variety of interpretations. So the first thing we need to know is that the Russian martial arts have their own unique lineage. They're not just an Asian hybrid. We know that they date back as far as the 10th century because that is the earliest recorded historical mention of Slavic boxing systems, and by that time they were already well established. These systems included striking and kicking, throws, clinching, takedowns, and a host of traditional weapon work including sword and spear, knife and whip. These systems continue along and they face tremendous adversity, the foreign invasion, occupation, and as such there are a lot of influences that direct and steer them throughout history. But ultimately what ends up governing all of the Russian martial arts is a strong playfulness and a focus on adaptability. Whereas if we look at many Asian systems that have very stringent systems of apprenticeship and very formal technical transmission of knowledge, in the Russian martial arts we have much more focus on play and exploration, joy and adaptability. For us, the biggest change comes in 1917 with the rise of the Soviet government. Not long thereafter, the Soviet government basically funds an institution to begin researching combative systems. And this is largely informed by their defeat in the Russo-Japanese War and their interest specifically in Japanese martial culture. We have people researching Asian martial arts, bringing them back in, but likewise we have an integration of the existing Slavic systems. The Slavic martial arts were at that point made illegal, and that meant some of the instructors went underground, some faced execution, and others agreed to work with the government, lending their skills to help merge and integrate their knowledge with Asian content, specifically judo and jiu-jitsu, which were huge influences on the early combative systems for the military. So what we see coming from this are two specific groupings, if you will, of knowledge. The first contains Sambo. We have Sport Sambo and Combat Sambo, which were created primarily for the military. And the second, which is far lesser known, contained a style known as Sam-Oz. Sam-Oz was created by a gentleman named Spiridonov. It was, compared to Sambo, far less muscular, far less technical. It tended to focus more on the subtleties of biomechanics, and its main focus was adaptability. So it really sought to make the user of the style adaptable to harsh circumstance. It worked a lot on psychology, on dealing with fear, on adapting to circumstance, and using improvisation and adaptability. After the death of Spiridonov, the work was carried on by a gentleman named Kadashnikov, and Kadashnikov became the first person to use the word Systema, or the system, to refer to what he did. Now, from Kadashnikov came many different branches, and we have a huge spectrum in Systema. On the far, far, far left side of the spectrum, we have some styles that are incredibly soft, very subtle, focused on tension, relaxation, the use of breath. Some veer into mysticism. Some get into a lot of the nonsense you see online, the no-touch, chi blast knockouts and the psychic energy work. Others infuse huge amounts of religion, and we see an attachment of Russian Orthodox religion, which is very much a post-Soviet addendum. But then we go through that spectrum and we see varying degrees of force, varying degrees of mysticism, and we have people taking sort of smaller focuses. When we get to the far right end of the spectrum, that's where you find us. And what defines us is that first and foremost, there is zero mysticism. We are scientific and we are pragmatic. First and foremost, we believe that as a hybrid, as an integrated system, that evolution is a process, not a destination. So we have not arrived and it does not stop. We are always looking to improve and to integrate the latest findings. That means the latest findings in sports and motor behavior, the latest findings in psychology, the latest findings in tactics and weapons. We are constantly enhancing the understanding of the system to make it as usable and as practical as possible for the 21st century. So naturally, as a scientific system, we are entirely secular. We do not advocate any one religious denomination, and everyone is welcome to come and improve their combative capacities without any added philosophy. Third, we are very much concerned with a pragmatic solution, and we are always pressure testing. So while we do have some subtler, slow work that is done at the early stages, we hugely rely on sportive sparring, renovated boxing, grappling, and most specifically, context-driven pressure testing, role-playing and scenario training to make sure what we are learning is usable and realistic. And this is a huge difference between many of the slower, softer schools that you will see. And finally, we have a curriculum. We have a very fixed sequential curriculum. We have standardized testing for our instructors. And what this means is that there are no secrets, nothing is hidden, and nothing is forgotten. We want to make sure that you have a sequential understanding of all of the foundation. We want to make sure that students and instructors alike have a steady, even level of quality, so that you can trust when you go to one of our affiliates, you're going to get the same quality of instruction and nothing will be left out, that we're all speaking the same language, and that there are no mysteries or black holes left out by intent or by accident. That is the overview, guys. So that's what we do. Other questions that I will get quite often is, so you're like Krav Maga? We are in the sense that we are a military hybrid, but we are not in the sense that we are far more concerned with things like biomechanical refinement and improvement of the body. We look at the total health of the practitioner through the body and the psyche. We focus a lot on breath work to control stress and manage fear. And we do a lot of very different work, which is sometimes misunderstood. Work with limitations, where we might limit the use of our limbs or limit the use of our senses. And there's nothing mystical involved in this. This is really just to teach you to constantly adapt to new circumstances. Again, you do not rise to opportunity, you fall to the level of your training. So we want to make sure that our students are constantly facing new challenges so that we can maximize their adaptability to make them as ready as possible for the real world. That is it, guys. That is Combat Systema in a nutshell. I look forward to seeing you on the mat.